Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode. In today's episode, we are talking about pricing. Often I love in the second episode of the week to go into more detail about money, how to make it, and really get the conversation going. And I think that I love being in this position because if somebody at a dinner party said, hey guys, why don't we talk about money? Why don't we talk about how much we earn? Why don't we talk about what we spend on whatever? There might be one or two people who'd be like, do you know what? That sounds like a great conversation. But I think there'll be a lot of people who would say, no, thanks. That's not what I want to be talking about right now. I do not want to be getting my bank statements out around this table, around this Le Creuset pot. So on that basis, let's talk about it today, you and I, and you're in a safe space because I can't see or hear you unless you get in touch with me and we work together. Create Your Income Pie is a great place to start. You can go to the money section of my website. But in today's conversation, you can just be in your own head, in your own thoughts, grab a piece of paper and a pen if you want to, but there's lots here to think about. So this came from a conversation that I had with a client, and she was wondering whether or not to put her prices on her website. And she drew up a list of I was thinking this and it works for that, but actually, do I do that? Will it put people off? And she had a lot of questions. And we had a conversation about what was right for her. And because I was coaching her, it was all about her business. But I thought for the purposes of today's episode, I would answer this question and why I do what I do, and to begin this conversation with you. So I have always put my prices on my website. And that has been the case since I've been a coach for 15 years. Now, there are certain things in other areas of my personal brand which are a little bit more subjective / negotiable, meaning as a speaker, when somebody books me for a job, it's always a bespoke situation. It's never just an hourly rate because sometimes there are add-ons, sometimes they want to buy it as part of a other future situation. So I will then make a commission on it. Sometimes the way that the deal is structured is different. And same with my acting. So sometimes you get paid, well, often if you're filming a commercial, for example, you get a basic single filming day fee. So you get what your day rate essentially. And then they will buy you out for a certain period of time for a certain territory. So they may say, we are going to show this commercial on UK TV on these channels for a year. And so they would package and structure a deal that would pay you your day rate and your costume and recall and transport or whatever it might be. And then they would buy you out for a chunk of time. So that's really useful in terms of being able to have those conversations of what this looks like in this moment. But in terms of my coaching, in terms of my shop and my one-to-one sessions, it's fairly straightforward. The only time where I will ever change things generally is if somebody joins my 100-day personal brand plan and they don't need the online resources and they just want the one-on-one sessions. They just want to be in that process. And if that's the case, then there will be a reduced rate. But generally everything else sort of stays the same. So here are a few thoughts as to why I share my prices. For me and my relationship with money and selling and putting myself out there and building a personal brand, I have had to find a way to build a relationship with money. And there will be some people who go, I don't know, I'll just call it 500 quid and they'll just stick 500 quid on something. And for me, finding that thing, like if you were a hairdresser, for example, I would say there's much more of a guide price of like, you charge this, you charge that. And then when you get to kind of studio director, you charge this sort of price in this sort of area. There, or if you go for shellac nails, like there's a general sort of price point that you might expect to pay rather, in a certain area. However, with something like coaching or maybe the work that you do, it can be really difficult to find what that sweet spot is and what that price is. And I have known that pricing for me is emotional and it needs to be embodied. So sometimes it doesn't matter actually what the figure is, but it needs to feel like a fair exchange. It needs to feel good in my body. It needs to feel like I can say it with integrity and feeling and all of that. And so firstly, I've had to, in order to sell, build that relationship first. Because I could quite easily say, yeah, it's 10 grand for an hour session and stick it on my website. But I know that people probably wouldn't buy that because I'm not in connection and in a relationship with that particular figure. And so first and foremost, that's why I do that, because I want to feel good with pricing. The second thing is sometimes people don't know what they want, but they know that they need something. And sometimes people have to make a choice of what it is and what if I want this, but not, like if you go on, I don't know, ASOS or Next or John Lewis or Marks and Spencer's or wherever you shop, sometimes you might add things into your basket like that, that's nice. Ooh, that would be lovely. And then you look at your basket at the end and you're like, okay, so I've now got £400 worth of clothes in there. And do I really need another white t-shirt? Okay, I'm going to take the white t-shirt out because the thing that I really want is this over here. So by laying your prices out, you're giving your client, your customer, that opportunity to browse, to try on, to think about how they're thinking about things, whether this is the right thing, and coming up with their choices. And finally, it is operating on a no surprises basis. And this fits in with one of my business values, in that I only want to sell to people that I can help, that I can support, that are ready, that want my services, that are good to go, they want to do the work. So I have no interest in being the best salesperson ever and being able to sell anything to anybody. I don't want to do that. In fact, I want to do the opposite. I want to sell less. I want that process to be so easeful. I want people to come into my DMs, into my emails, into the private hub on my website and go, I'm ready. Have you got any space? I'd like to get started this week. I don't want to convince people. I don't want to use techniques. I don't want to follow a script. I don't want to do any of that. And so by laying out my prices, it gives people the opportunity to fully have agency over their purchasing decisions. And sometimes that means that I get a message where somebody says, this is something I really want to do, Nicky, but I'm going to have to come back to you in 2 months' time because I need to save for this. And I'm doing this at the moment, but I know that it's there and this is something that I want to do. And I think that that is such a lovely relationship to have, that if you work on your business in these sort of incremental ways where you're always showing up in integrity, the people come round again and again, always. Like if you're that's why I get booked in lots of different ways. Oh, I thought of you, or I get a call out the blue, like, are you free on this day? I don't know why, but I just felt like you were the right person for it. It happens again and again. It happens in my acting work. Some of the casting directors I've been seeing for 25 years. And even sometimes I'll go in the room and I think, maybe they've forgotten, and they're like, hi, Nicky, how are you? you build that relationship, you build that integrity. And when you operate from that place, it's always going to be great. I hope you got lots from today. That link, as I mentioned earlier, is nickyraby.com/money. There are 3 ways to join Create Your Income Pie. The first is an online course. The second adds a strategy session. And the third, we do the online course and work together for a month to get really into your packages. And sorry, that sounds a bit, moving on. Yeah, get into the nitty gritty and see you soon. Bye.